But gentlemen, I want to get into the next topic, and this is what for me personally, one of the things I enjoyed the most about having the pressure of doing 5 shows a week is writing original material. It's easy to read someone's article, add it to the show notes, and talk about said subject. This is a topic that I think everyone on the panel, including the chat, is going to appreciate. Because look, you can say what you want about me. You can call me an Xbot. You can call me a corporate slave. Whatever you want to call me, I'll just block it. It's fine. But Xbox is my console of choice. Now, that doesn't mean I don't play on PlayStation or Nintendo Switch. I use my Switch every day. I use and will use my PS5 when Ghosts of Yotai comes out. And that's coming out soon. Paris Lilly, shout out to him. He's reviewing it as we speak. I did not get a copy. I'm not surprised, but I also didn't request for one. So it's okay. I'm going to pay for it and enjoy that game as much as I did Ghost of Tsushima. But there has been a pushed narrative for anti-Xbox rhetoric in a way that I think 2025 has levied more than any year before it. Now, of course, there have been narratives before, and Xbox has stepped on a bunch of rakes, and they have caused a lot of their own problems. They're not immune to the rake stepping disease. They've done it more times than I can count on 2 hands, ladies and gentlemen. And they should get the smoke when that happens because they've been in the business long enough to know better. And sometimes the people making decisions are not making the right decisions. But if you just look at 2025 and you say to yourself, why do these narratives with games media? I mean, look, listen, the community is always going to be the community. The trolls, the faceless cowards with the anime pictures and the name with 17 numbers afterwards, they exist. And probably all they watch is porn and try to be hateful POSs on the internet because they're faceless cowards, right? That's what they do. So when they act like that, we all just like we kind of just shrug our shoulders because that's who we thought that they were. The old famous line from the Coach Green. Anyone knows what I'm talking about. But 2025 has been, I want to say, one of the best years in Xbox gaming for a multitude of reasons. The promise of one game per quarter that they made years ago has been given tenfold. By the end of this year, they will have put out 12 plus first party games of every ilk, size, and scope. That's very difficult to do. Xbox is in a position where the next 2 years, I mean, just if you want to keep it tight and just say, let's talk 2026, the forecast for that year, for next year, is the first Xbox OEM device by what we all believe to be Asus, and the trilogy or the trinity of games known as the pillars of Xbox will all have a new edition, a new Gears, an old new Halo, and a new Forza, on top of what we could see Fable, State of Decay, and a bunch of others. Clockwork Revolution, potentially, and a ton more, right? But if we just look at 2025 and you just say the words Xbox Game Pass, somehow or another, that enrages people, especially games media, because we are constantly told that it's, and we talked about this on Primetime Gaming, there have been articles that have been written where people have not suggested, have literally said that Xbox Game Pass is too good. And it's so good that it's somehow going to destroy or implode the industry as we know it. Now, I don't know so much about you folks, but I know that I personally don't give a flying shit what happens to the industry. And I don't mean that I'm not being a troll. I mean, I am a customer first. So if I spend my $20 per month, which I do for Xbox Game Pass, I expect there to be games there every month, followed by every year and every year afterwards that are going to make worth my $20. But that's not where the narrative starts and stops, folks. Let's see. Let's see if I can come up with a few. Xbox don't buy games. Well, I think that has been broken because of Helldivers, which apparently is on pace as it currently stands. It's outselling the pace of PlayStation 5, its own platform. Where are the trolls now? They're in witness protection, folks, because they're cowards, right? Teen Cherry's game, we just talked about it, folks. Lighten up the charts, right? On Xbox. Well, it's on Game Pass. I thought Game Pass was a game killer. Nobody's gonna buy Hollow Knight, right? I mean, it's on Game Pass. Why would you buy it? Narrative destroyed. And I mean, there's a host of others. I'm sorry that I don't have them listed, but it'd be as long as my arm. So I just kind of want to talk about when does this stop, Crispy Bomb? When does Xbox turn the corner? And I'm not expecting a kumbaya moment, but you got to give credit where credit is due. Like they have led the charge in first party development. They have led the charge on first party games that have become third party dominant sellers on PlayStation. They are giving people boatloads worth of games in Xbox Game Pass. They have a roadmap that goes all the way through 2027. They have a hardware roadmap that has started and will finish in at the end of October when these consoles, when the handhelds come out, the OEM partnered handhelds. That will continue through 2026 with the console that is going to be an open platform, followed by in 2027 a dockable handheld like the Switch and their own box underneath the TV. I don't know how much more a company can give you, but let's try and make sense of this anti-Xbox rhetoric narrative that just does not seem to end.
We want more anyway. Like that's just the way the world works now. It's like, oh yeah, you're gonna give us all these games. Which, if you really look at it, even like Expedition 33 is like an example that kind of destroyed narratives. But yet they keep running with them. Wonder why? Maybe it's clickbait more than anything. People sometimes might not be as dumb as they act on these social platforms. Just to let you know, people, they might be doing it on purpose. I have receipts about some of those people, but if I need to use them, I bring them out. I don't like fake people. It's one of those things that these stands are like in witness protection right now. I don't know what they're doing. They just spew out stuff, and it's like, dude, that was destroyed months ago. That was destroyed years ago. I don't think this is ever going to stop unless Xbox, I guess sells enough consoles. That's the only thing they ever throw at us. Like that's actually, legit. So, the problem is that Microsoft just wants to give you the games. They're not looking to, beat you over the head with saying, okay, you only get these games here. Like they're at that point, and it's taken time, but most people look forward to this future, and that they're bringing out things that are going to allow us to play other people's games without even having to release them on actual Xbox hardware. This agnostic thought process is going to continue, and it's not like they're holding back anything. Like, to have this amount of games this year is absurd. And it makes you think about what they're going to do next year. But, we ignore the fact that we're used to these type of things. If you have any subscription service, like, you're waiting for that next big show, when it's coming months before, and, there's not, and I guess that's the one excitement that Xbox can have, is that they can say, hey, here's a shadow drop, because we love those. I mean, even if you look at Silksong, it's like, no reviews, nothing, like just bam, here you go, and look at the success. So there's just an opportunity from Microsoft to destroy the narratives, which I feel like most of them are done, and just continue to just do what they're doing. And I think as this new generation unfolds, people are going to look back on these next year, this year, even last year was pretty good, and look at it and say, well, if they continue on this, why not get an Xbox if you want to play on a console, and have these other opportunities and buy games where you want, and do things that we've never really experienced on console. And I think that's the future we're looking at. I think down the road, some of these companies that are refused to change are going to at least have to consider it. We've already seen Sony leaning towards, releasing more games. Obviously, there's some wild rumors, but also you look at the success of Helldivers and you say, those money people aren't going to shut up. I'm going to be honest with you. And being publicly traded, you're going to have people that all I care about is money. We don't care about the past and how it went, and how the console wars were really prevalent and all these things. It's a new dawn, it's a new day type thing, and really, I don't think the hate for Xbox will stop until people stop clicking on it. That's the truth. And until then, we will gladly have these conversations, because it's always sweet to have somebody put an article out or say something stupid on Twitter, and then 2 weeks later or a day later, that narrative gets completely demolished, and then I have that receipt forever, and I get to laugh at them. So it's always fun.
Korkenstein, let's bring you in. Let's talk about Xbox. Let's talk about the narratives that have been torn down all year. 2025 has been the year for Xbox. Now, have they stepped on brakes? They have. Have they done some silly things? You're like, man, that was really dumb. You were just riding high, and now you tripped. But all of the narratives of Xbox players not buying games, Xbox Game Pass cannibalizing sales, Xbox Game Pass destroying the industry, the Xbox, the ROG Ally Xbox Asus is not a handheld, or it's not an Xbox handheld, it's a PC handheld. All of these narratives have been destroyed, and they continue to get destroyed. But when will this end? When will the good that Xbox does for consumers be enough?
That's just the way kind of SEO is now, sadly. It's something that Google's kind of created, a problem that Google's created, that, they need people to create shock and awe, and they need to push narratives that are going to get a lot of engagement, and negativity sells, sadly. That's sadly what it is. And nothing sells more. And the thing is Xbox doesn't really do much about it. The same people that are complaining and trashing Xbox, they get codes. They still get codes for reviews. And what do they do with those codes? They trash Xbox and they trash the games. And guess what they do? They reply for more codes, and they keep getting codes. And it's just over and over in this cycle. Now, I'm not saying blacklist them. That just doesn't work. But there should be a little bit more of a selection process involved with some of this. And yeah, I mean, even look at Starfield right now. Starfield was an amazing success. I don't care what anybody says. It was a great success for Xbox. And guess what? People are still SEO farming it today, trying to create crazy
ridiculous
negatives, narratives and things like that. And it also doesn't help when you have some, like you said earlier, the games media doing this. I have like 5 or 6 that I could just spit off the top of my head, but I know we don't name on this program, that end up creating these narratives. Some even use Alina, which we've all, or Linia or whatever it is, to create these clickbait narratives. And it's just sad, you know. Xbox is we've said it before, and this is one of the first things I ever said coming onto the program. You know, Xbox, you know, has died so many times, yet they're still here. I don't think that narrative is ever going to change until the SEO factor kind of goes away from it. Once they stop getting those clicks, once they stop getting a lot of that engagement farming that they do. Because even Crispy said there's a lot of guys there that you know, they're smarter than you think they are. They you know, they know what they're doing. They know how to play the game. They know what to post to engagement farm. And you know, there's certain guys that do it and have admitted to doing it in, you know, back, you know, in kind of like backroom chats and stuff like that, to where they're grifting and they know they are. You know, there are things to talk about in the industry, and there are things to criticize when it's needed. But overall, we're gamers, we're consumers. Like, we should be playing games to have fun. You know, none of us are CEOs, you know, at least on the Microsoft PlayStation level. You know, we need to go back to talking about games that you know, and enjoy, and what we actually, you know, find happiness with. And that's what the hobby was, why we all started this. And it's just sad that a lot of us have forgotten that. You know, to just sell negativity is it's just so disgusting. It's just like, I don't know, it just makes me feel dirty about it. Because, you know, it's such a great hobby. Like, I mean, how many of us played, you know, sharing, you know, split screen and stuff, you know, back in the day? You know, how many of us have made friends, like, you know, that we've played games, you know, staying up doing LAN parties with Halo, or even online stuff where, you know, we've created these bonds where people are like family now, with us. And that's because of gaming. And, you know, to see these people come in and trash that and try and create something that's so, especially when it's healthy for the industry, especially when it's pro consumer, it's good for you. Like, Game Pass is good for you. It's good for you as a consumer. Why are you going to hate that? Like, who, you know, you get a great subscription service that allows you to play day one triple A's, you know, even double A's, you know, that it's why would you take that? Even the games media, I know you guys aren't consumers, but you speak for the consumers in a sense. You are the target audience for the consumers. Why are you going to trash something that is supposed to benefit the people you're creating content for? It just doesn't make any sense. We have to start doing better on talking about, you know, the positivity that gaming can bring. And yeah, Xbox isn't perfect. No company is. But what they are doing is so consumer friendly right now, and even industry friendly. To not highlight that and to keep trying to push these negative narratives, it's just absolutely silly. And like, we really need to get back to just doing what we love, and that's playing games with each other.
Fuzzy Belvedere, I want to bring you in because this is a topic that you and I have covered before, but not to this extent. I think, you know, when you consider, again, folks, I'd like to look at this from a consumer's point of view. I know we're all fanboys and fangirls of one thing or another, and my preferred platform is one that runs a green banner. I mean, that's fine. If you like PlayStation more, that's okay. You can hang out here. If you like Nintendo more, that's fine. If you are a PC head and you get the best of all worlds on your PC and your 5090, good on you. If you just take a step back and see that there is a negative narrative that consistently gets pushed onto Xbox. The big question is why? Because they are doing a lot for the industry. They have changed the industry in ways that a lot of people are still feeling salty. Certain, you know, people at IGN, for instance, which, you know, we don't do the names thing here, that are in charge of the reviews, went out of their way to review Starfield, like Korkenstein was saying, not once but twice, to give 2 sevens to. Because he just wanted to let people know that he does not like consolidation, and he was in his feelings about the Activision deal. Somehow that was going to ruin the industry. Somehow Call of Duty is going to be put behind this paywall. It's just one narrative after another. It's one publication after another. And like I said, I'm not even going to get into the giant POSs of the community. And we'll do the names thing here, but folks, you know who I'm talking about. They're the worst of the worst. And Xbox can do no good. But let's get your thoughts on some of the conversation we're having regarding this forced narrative against Xbox.
Well, there always has to be a bad guy in every storyline, and unfortunately, Xbox, because of their parent Microsoft, they're labeled the bad guy because of how Microsoft is this huge company, and huge companies are always bad except for when they're Apple, or at least in some people's eyes. I see it differently, but I think that's part of it. The other part being that PlayStation arrived to the gaming space first, or not first, but before Xbox. So Nintendo was already there. Sega was on its way out. Sony is partly responsible for that, and Sega's the other part responsible for it. But here comes Xbox, and it just automatically had a negative cloud over it because of Microsoft and its power and money and everything. And the 360 was probably Xbox's best go around. I mean, they didn't do bad with the original Xbox, but the 360 was where they really went toe to toe. They ended the generation a little bit earlier than PlayStation, with the PS3 continuing to sell a little bit later. But they kind of dropped the ball at the wrong time when it came to the Xbox One versus PS4. And they're always going to be climbing out of that hole that they kind of made for themselves. And since then, they've done everything under the sun to, appeal to the customer base. Now, some of the stuff is truly game changing in the sense of it makes it more affordable, although nobody really wants to talk about affordability when it comes to hobbies in general. But
how dare you save? You must no. How dare you save? You must pay everything at $100+. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah,
you're the problem.
And that's the thing. It's like there's so many things that Xbox has done to enrich the gaming space, whether it's things like Game Pass. It does put a little bit more of a spotlight on some of the smaller devs that would be fighting or tooth and nail to make any airtime as far as for marketing and such, bringing more of a spotlight on like ID at Xbox and things like that, as well as still making AAA games with some of the studios they've acquired. Now, on the flip side of things, people look at some of that change as, what's wrong with gaming or consolidation and so forth. But, last time I checked, consolidation doesn't directly affect how well a game plays on your console. I get it. Everybody has an opinion on the industry as a whole. And there's some good things about the industry and there's some bad things, whether you want to look at crunch or, this roller coaster of layoffs and such. But that's across the board. It's not just solely Xbox that is, responsible for some of the negative stuff. There are other players in that space, but they're also not the only ones doing good stuff in the space. But it very rarely gets recognized, just for the fact that they've always been like that redhead stepchild. Nothing against redheads or anything along those lines, but the saying, in sense that they always, no matter how good they do, they're always going to be crapped on as far as what they achieve or what they're able to bring to the market. But I think things will change over time. Like the newer players or the newer gamers that are coming up that don't care about a console, would rather play on PC or their cell phone, those are going to be the ones that are going to start ignoring this noise from the gaming media, the existing gaming media. Like we've seen how printed media has kind of fallen off to, it being pretty much invisible. Sure, you have online web pages and news articles and such, but even that's kind of fallen on the wayside as attention spans, shorten even further. Like nobody wants to read an article that's going to take them 18 minutes. They don't even want to really read an article that's going to take them 5 minutes. So if you could do a quick snapshot video that's 30 seconds or less, that's where you're in. And I think whether it's Xbox themselves kind of pivoting and making more of their media stuff or marketing lean more towards that aspect, which will probably alienate a lot of us, of the fan base, because they're like, what is this nonsense? What is with these quick 30-second quips that make no sense kind of thing? But you have to cater to the audience that's in front of you. And right now, that's what Microsoft is doing. That's what Xbox is working towards, and it rubs the gaming media the wrong way. Whether they adjust, we'll see. We've seen a lot of closures of some of these online sites. Now, some of them are still well funded because they're part of that same consolidation that is bad for gaming. Apparently, isn't bad for gaming media, but you know that's the other hypocrisy in the sense of, you know, let a conglomerate just own, you know, 15 different magazines as far as gaming is related. But that's a whole nother story. Just like, you know, black hole games, like these free to play games that are probably the bigger detriment to the gaming space. Nobody really wants to talk about that because I guess some of the people that are behind those games have a lot more resources and power within the industry. And yeah, you badmouth Epic, you're good luck getting, you know, access to any, you know, Unreal Engine 5 game that's coming out or anything from Epic in general. And knowing that you're going to be the bad guy because they can spin things for the Fortnite crowd, that you are the bad guy. So nobody's going to talk about how they're more of a detriment than Game Pass would be, kind of thing. But it is what it is. I think over time, the gaming media as we know it will kind of fade away. You've seen some of them break off from, you know, the bigger, you know, I guess shows or podcasts and such, and have broken off into their own individual things. And it seems to have garnered them more success than being part of the bigger conglomerate. But I think that's going to be the way of the future, where you're going to have more streamers, content creators that are going to be the voices. Now, you're still going to have the toxic ones or the ones that are more of the console warring factions. But I think over time, people are just going to look at it as, hey, can I play that on the device I already have, whether it's my phone, my Steam Deck, or my PC, or the Xbox console under the TV? And I think that's where, you know, people are going to gravitate to. It's going to be, hopefully at some point we get back to talking about the games, how much fun they are, or how broken they may be at launch, and how many patches they need, or why we still need day one patches in the industry where they don't have some of the stresses of what we did during COVID and so forth. They should be able to get these games, you know, right out the door, kind of thing. But I don't think the gaming media really wants to have those conversations because they're in their own fear world of not getting free codes and such. If you bring up the negative stuff on Bungie or Sony's mismanagement of some of their studios, but it's always a great narrative to talk about mismanagement over at Xbox, considering that they'll still send you game codes, even if you say, you know, Phil Spencer eats poop, kind of thing. And maybe that's something that Xbox needs to change. Maybe, I don't know. I can't see it going well for them to even start, you know, pulling things back, because then the media will call them out, just like they call out games that aren't what they want them to be. Like Far Cry is a Far Cry game, but they somehow don't want it to be a Far Cry game. So now they crap on it to the point where nobody buys it, kind of deal. Or when you look at things like, what was it? The Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Oh, well, that wasn't the Batman game they wanted, so everybody seemed to crap on it until they started playing, and then they actually enjoyed it. But it's like at that point, you'd already convinced all of the people that may have been on the fence to avoid it. But I don't know. The gaming media, I won't say they're becoming more irrelevant, but they are going to have a smaller niche of the market. They still have, like, your IGNs of the world still have a big, you know, piece of the pie, but as time goes on, it's going to start shrinking. And we've seen it shrink over the past few years, where either people have left and done their own thing, or things have kind of, you know, condensed to some extent, and, you know, they'll continue to do so. That's it.
I mean, it's a fair point. I have lost total faith in games media. There are certain sites that I still frequent, that I still appreciate. Tom Henderson, Tom Warren, Jez Corden of Windows Central. There are some others, like I've had a chance to meet multiple times. Andy Robinson from VGC, Gentleman of a Man. I like their journalists. I used to exclusively use VGC, and I still do. Game Rant, sometimes they clickbait. I don't like all of their stuff, but I do like some of it. There are certain sites that I do frequent. Some of the big ones I don't. IGN, I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. So, I mean, not everyone there is a bad guy for sure, but I don't like the way they do their business, and I certainly don't like a lot of the journalists. And I'm not, again, we don't do the names thing here, so it's, you know, my opinion is moot, but I've lost faith in games journalists, which is why I turn to a lot of the content creation community for game news, reviews, and opinions.